Hello again. I find myself a little puzzled lately by the behaviour and public pronouncements of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. I'm sure it's me, but his policy relating to the easing of the various irksome restrictions which have been placed upon us seems to me to be more than a little unclear. This is an alarming precedent because after announcing a policy and gaining the backing of scientists for it, the Prime Minister then embarks upon precisely the opposite course. What is scary is that no newspapers or other mainstream media outlets seem to have noticed this, or if they have, they do not mention it. Let me say at once that I'm not arguing with, contradicting or doubting any of the data or opinions produced by any health authorities, either domestic or international. I'm talking solely of what a politician says and then actually does. Just to remind people, 3 months ago in February, Boris Johnson said that any decisions regarding the lifting or easing of the various so-called lockdown regulations would be dictated by data, not dates. I give a link to a news item from February the 17th in the description to this video. In it, Johnson says that it is absolutely right to take a data, not dates approach. He went on a few days later to assert that he was not going to give any dates for easing lockdown, but that any decision would depend entirely on data. This all seemed very clear, easily understood. However, a few days later, the Prime Minister actually announced the dates when things would be happening, months in advance of any data being known. April the 12th, May the 17th and June the 21st. We all know those dates, we've known them months. From that moment, everything to do with the lifting of restrictions on our lives has actually been, and still is, driven by dates and not data. For example, there was not a single death from or associated with COVID-19 yesterday in England or Scotland or Northern Ireland, yet those dates of May the 17th and June the 21st remain set in stone, utterly immovable and impervious to any data. I find two things odd about this. The first is that the Prime Minister of Britain should announce one policy and then do the precise opposite while still maintaining that he is adhering to the original policy. Even for a man such as Boris Johnson, this is a pretty bold-faced way to carry on. Still, as viewers may remind me, he's a wrong-un, so we should not be too surprised at his behaving like a weasel. The really odd thing is that nobody appears to be calling him to account for this flagrant bit of deception. Even newspapers like the Daily Telegraph have not drawn attention to this contradiction, which is in the style of 1984. Very rummy. It is almost as though plans were laid months ago for what would be happening when, as though perhaps as early as 6 months ago everybody knew what would be happening and on what date, and the actual data had no bearing at all on anything. This is strange. I think viewers will probably agree with me. Going off at a slight tangent, I'm amused to see how the scandal over the redecoration of his official residence has done Boris Johnson no harm at all in the polls. This is actually very funny. Ordinary working people who hear that a man has managed to bend a few rules and get his home decorated for nothing will say to themselves, good luck to you, I wish I could pull a stroke like that. That's certainly how I feel. It is well-to-do politicians in the Labour Party who are up in arms about it because they are in general so wealthy that they can't see why anybody would wish to fiddle the figures and get wallpaper and curtains for nothing. I can't personally stand Johnson at any price, but I can hardly criticise the fellow for finding a cunning way to have his decorating done for nothing.